Hiya, my name is Helen and I'm going to be talking to you about Latin verbs and in particular about present tense, active, indicative, regular verbs. And if you don't know what most of those words mean, don't worry. That'll all become clear sort of over the course of the next few videos about verbs. So what I'm just writing here, first of all, is a series of suffixes that go on the end of all of these regular present verbs. And what these tell you is they tell you who's doing whatever it is that the verb says, really. So I do whatever, or they are doing something. And in Latin, we don't tend to use words like I and they and you unless it's being done for particular emphasis. So sort of like, I did this amazing thing because I'm so great, which you'll get a lot of in Cicero, who's a Latin author, who's not one of my favourites. I'm going to confess that now. But he's a big one for using pronouns. So these three at the top, these are singular, these are plural. So they just sort of go down in order, really. So first, second, and third person, which just means I do something, you do something, he, she, or it does something. And any other pronouns? We do something. Yep, so they just go again, first, second, and third person, but in plural. So obviously the plural of I is we. So we do something. This is you, but it's you plural. So if I was talking to hundreds of you, I'd be like, you all do these great things for Caesar. If you were doing something for Caesar, you do, they do, and yeah, that's just sort of that. These just go on the end of any regular verb and tell you who's doing whatever it is. Yeah. So I'm going to do an example, and the example I'm going to use is amo. So I'm just going to write this quickly. Amo, amare, amavi, and amatus. And the reason this looks a bit long, and the reason I've written it this way is because this is how it'll appear if you look it up in a dictionary. And I just don't want it to scare you if you're looking up a word in the dictionary and like, why on earth are there so many words? There don't need to be, surely. And for the moment, there don't need to be. We don't need these two. So what we do need is this first one and this word here, but in particular this little letter. So what we've got here is actually quite usefully the first person present form of the verb. So if we were going to conjugate the verb, which just means to like write out all of its parts, we'll just conjugate the first tense, and so we can just copy that across because that O ending is the same as this O, and it's just very easy. For the second person, it gets a little bit more complicated because we have to start involving this letter here. So what we do is we take the root of the word, the stem, which is am. Oh, sorry, I haven't said what it means. Yeah, if you know any Italian or Spanish, you'll probably recognize this as meaning love, and it's also generally the first one used in most Latin textbooks, which is kind of why I've used it here, because it's just quite a useful word. I'm sorry, I didn't didn't clarify that before. Yes, so we've got the root of the word, so stem is there with the am, so that just means love. And then we take this letter here, which is the key letter, and we just pop it in here. And then what we want to do is we want to look across to the ending. So we want to have you love, and you can see you is an S. So we say a mass. Then we do the same thing in the third person. We take the root and the stem, the key letter, and we go a match with the ending. And we do that all the way through. So it's a mus or amamus, amatis, and amant. And what this is an example of is a first conjugation verb. I'm just going to write the word conjugation because you'll see it a lot in textbooks. But all it really means is it's a group of verbs that behaves pretty much identically, with maybe a couple of exceptions, but they all sort of fit together, and I've totally misspelled that. Conjugation. There we go. So I'm just going to do, there's 4 conjugations in total, but the first 2 are kind of the easiest. So I'm just going to concentrate on these 2 for the first few videos. And what we've got, an example from the second conjugation is video, videri. And then again, we've got these 2 forms that we don't really need right now. It's vidi, but I'm including this one because if you know any Caesar, then you'll recognize it because it's part of the phrase veni, vidi, vici. And what this just means, as you might also guess from this, if you know, well, you're watching a video right now, so it just means to see. There we go. I'll tell you the meaning of this one instead of the other one. So yes, again, this one's slightly easier, in fact, because the key letter is included here, but it's a good practice to sort of remember and recognize that this is the letter that's kind of determining this rather than taking it from the first person present. So if I was going to conjugate this one, we get video, vides, videt, videmus, videtus, and vident. And that's kind of all there is to it. So we've got this ost, mus, tis, und. And the reason I've decided to do this first is because once you know this ost, mus, tis, und pattern, it becomes very easy to recognize throughout all of the other tenses as well. There is the sort of exception that the O often gets turned to either an M or an I, but the rest of the pattern is pretty consistent. So, for example, if I were to write the pluperfect, which means I had done something, this is the ending of the pluperfect, the suffix. There we go. Oh, I'm writing badly. There we go. Rat, ramaras, a rat, ramus, iratus, rant. So you can see there's this mst, mustis, unt pattern again, and let's say I was going to do the future, and you don't need to sort of remember these quite yet. These are just things that I'm just using as an example. Don't feel like I'm running away too quickly. These are just so you can sort of look at it and recognize that this is a, it's just a curving pattern that we're going to see over and over again as we go through all of the different tenses, this ost, mus, tis, und. So yes, I'm running out of time. So I hope that's been helpful. and we'll build on this in future lessons. And thank you very much for listening.